Hello, my loves. How are you? Today, we are actually going to do something a little bit different. We're going to look at three stages of where the divine masculine collective are at this moment. This was the guidance that I received that I was being shown that the masculine collective right now, as they're going through their next levels of awakening to their truth, there's sort of these stages that they're going through and maybe experiencing several of these at once. And regardless of how you identify, you may also be experiencing one or more of these within your own internal energies potentially. Obviously, of course, only take this as it resonates, but this was shown to me as I was sort of just in the space of knowing I wanted to do a message today, but literally didn't have clarity on what direction to go. And what I thought I was going to do just wasn't jiving. And so this feels part of the energy that's coming up with the masculines. They think they're headed down one direction, but it's just not quite jiving or feeling right. In the past, they may have sort of pushed through action wise with just their brute strength and will, but that is not quite working in the same way anymore as what's coming through in this moment. Before I dive into the cards and the more deeply channeled messages, I just want to do two quick announcements. I do have the recordings for the Unbound groups available on my site in my store. I will drop that in the pinned comment. You can purchase one or both of them depending on what you feel guided to do. And also, I'm doing a very what is the word that even wants to come? I apologize. I'm just doing a very significant special in the sense that I don't normally offer 30-minute sessions because of the depth of the work that I do. But because of this transitionary phase and because of the deep layers that all of you have been working on yourself, I was guided to offer a 30-minute session from July 22nd to August 22nd for those that just want a quick check-in, for those of you that might want to actually try out and see what it's like to work with me. Any of those reasons, whatever, if you feel that's aligned for the next month, that 30-minute slot will be available for that limited time if you're interested in partaking in that. All right. I also feel that pause in my verbiage is part of the energy as well, connected with these transitions that we're going through. So, as always, take a check in with yourself and see what feels correct. Okay. All right. What do we got? There's almost like, as I say it, there's like a deer in the headlights feeling. And this is interesting because it's this morning. I remembered last week when I was in the woods, I was on a walk and a car came by. And after the car passed, I looked up as I was coming around the bend, and there was buck, a young buck deer with like his first maybe year and a half, 2 year antlers staring at me. And we were just staring at one another for quite some time to the point where I was able to actually get a picture of him. And I knew that there was significance within that connected to the collective masculine energies. And the fact that he had his first year horns expressed to me about how he's maturing, but yet still in sort of those like younger perspectives around the energies that we're moving into as far as these counterpart journeys as well as the ascension process. As I'm saying this, what's coming to me is that many of the masculines are becoming aware that things are changing. The quality of life is changing. The quality of how they used to live is shifting. The things that they thought that they wanted are shifting. Their perspectives are shifting. And so I'm guided right now to go into those waves that we were talking about. Let's see what we got for the first wave. And what's coming through for me is that these are the masculines that are more at the front of this awakening process. They have been aware of this. They're in the taking full responsibility for themselves. They're working their internal union in whatever way they're guided, because each masculine has their own unique path, but there very much are masculines at the forefront of these waves. And so, yes, okay. So two dropped for them from the shaman, mystical shaman deck. And the two that came out was thunder and earth. Whoa, okay. And on this thunder card, we have this gorgeous herd of buffalo. And with the earth, wow. With the energy of that I've been picking up on the most recent tower card essence, that this tower energy of these like openings and these transformative processes, it's like the lightning striking down into the earth and sort of opening the space for the masculines to more fully embody their higher self energies. That's one aspect of it. Look, how I'm feeling with the essence of the buffalo, this feels like these masculines are embodied. They have harnessed their power. They are embodying into their own connection with the earth and their material world in a very spiritual, higher self embodied way. And this is acknowledging that these are the masculines at the forefront of this process, leading and supporting the other masculines who are on other parts of this journey. But this to me is speaking very, very loudly that there are going to be more masculines stepping forward into the physical world in their own unique perspective and ways. I can feel the quality of this essence, and I'm looking forward to experiencing the uniqueness that these masculines are going to be bringing forward for us as a planet. There is this very deep connected reverence, not only to the traditional provider, protector, material world masculine perspective, but this is actually also tapping into that perspective that I spoke about on my most recent Patreon post, where the masculine perspective is expanding to include this overarching community perspective, where some of the masculines were once just had their hands and their lives full with their immediate survival and taking care of those people in their immediate space. But something is deeply shifting with this collective that is allowing them to see their part or their piece in the bigger overarching planetary shift, and the importance of their presence within that, not only for themselves and their family and those that they're immediately caring for, but how that can fit into the bigger picture. And part of what is happening in this process is where they are shedding the old should have, would have, could have's, or where their energies are being siphoned and drained and focused on things that are not actually supporting their true capacity and capability as a sacred masculine on this planet. Many of these masculines have been coming out of those bounds and those binds. They've been unraveling and clearing out of the things that have been holding them back. And they've been in this process and they are ready to move forward very swiftly and strongly when they get the call, when they get the green light. They are in this process. Some of them will be in this process already, but I'm also sensing that there's going to be a wave, there's going to be a trend, there's going to be a noticeable, discernible difference when these balanced masculines are stepping forward. Okay. And I can feel this, and I know that some of you are here with me. So thank you for your presence, and thank you for this embodiment that you have been working on at the forefront of your visionary abilities. And thank you for taking the lead on this for yourself and for the collective at hand. But this is a portion of the divine masculine, sacred masculine collective that is, at the front of the pack. Okay. And what I'm sensing is they each had their own unique life circumstances that allowed for this to occur. They heeded the call, they wanted to step forward into their own levels of leadership. And this is being acknowledged and witnessed at this time. I can feel there's more with this, but let's see where we go. You know what? I'm just going to pull one more because I feel there is something else that wants to be heard. Oh, these are the masculines that have very deeply embodied into some of these internal union energies, whether they would call it that or not. In fact, what I'm getting is many of them have been working on harnessing and accepting all of their internal energies and intuitive and higher abilities. And this is actually what is allowing them, as they've stabilized into that harmonious internal balance in deeper ways, they are now ready to more fully anchor and stabilize into their more full capacity as the sacred masculines. And I do feel that this specific part of the collective is very aware of their divine counterpart connection, and they are holding and working on holding their portion of that pillar, of that essence and energy. Regardless of what they're actually experiencing in the physical world, they have committed to their portion of this journey. Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Okay. Now, for the second wave, I'm guided to go into the shaman dream deck. Whoa, that came flying out and into my lap. I feel like this is where a majority of the masculines are at this time, as what's coming through is that fell in my lap. And the card that fell was deep, quiet meditation and stillness. And this to me is speaking about that still point within this collective portion of masculines that feels similar to what came through in both of the unbound groups. The energies were very, very different within each one of those groups. What the topics were different, but there was one portion that was very synchronistic and similar. And it was where some of these energies were frozen in a state of stillness or looked frozen, but they were actually being preserved. And as that energy thawed, or the preservation was melting, and what was underneath that frozen or preserved energy was actually a significant amount of soul essence and gifts. A lot of times we experience the frozen energy as trauma, and it has to thaw out and clear out, and sort of the dissociation and things like that. But this was there was some of that in the system, but there was a very significant still point, a point within the center of the system. You all can roll with this activation right here and right now. That was where the trauma was unraveling, and that part that was preserved for a time when the energy was ready to move from survival essence into thriving. And as soon as that energy was warmed and nourished and nurtured, this gorgeousness is able to blossom from the inside out. It's like the keys and the seeds and the memories and the soul dreams that have always lived inside of you, inside of us, actually being prepared to come to fruition in the physical form. And this is feeling to me that a majority of the masculine collective is in a state of this process. Some of them are starting to move into this wave, and some will probably be experiencing whatever this third process we're going to talk about is. But it feels to me like this is sort of that centripetal point of where many are right here and right now. And so this is moving into, as this shift occurs, as this thawing occurs, as they're opening and preparing to accept, and they're praying or meditating or asking for something new or for a new perspective, whatever is going on with them in their life that is creating this still point in this realization that they're needing more of their own life force. They're needing more information. They're needing access or support from some type of a higher power, regardless of how they believe or identify. There's this realization that yes, they had a lot of tools, and yes, they knew how to do a lot. But if they actually want to grow where they've intended to as a soul, there is going to be some more information that they're needing. They're going to need a bigger boat, a bigger motor. You see what I mean? There's an awareness that there is information that they're needing. Some of it is going to come from external sources, sort of like shining the light into the depths of the darkness. And a lot of it is actually going to be coming from the internal warmth and that realization that this is going to need to thaw. So there's that preserved part that's wanting to thaw out, and I'm already sensing into the next wave. And this feels like where many of them were frozen off, which was what we talked about in that most recent Patreon group. And again, these three stages might be happening within one person all simultaneously. Because as you thaw, and you come to light and the seeds start growing and the blooms start blossoming, it makes way for more of the seeds to come up, right? And then as those come up and those thaw out, and the next wave can thaw out. Okay, so it's like, think of it like in the springtime, how there's certain types of plants like crocuses start to bloom and start to come and start to grow even while there's still snow and ice on the ground in some cases. But it's just starting to get warm enough. It's just the perfect conditions out of complete frozen that they can start to grow, even while there's ice still and cold still present. And then you have plants in between, and then you have some that won't even start to grow until we hit midsummer, in a sense, right? Or they'll start to grow, but you don't really see the results of that until you're hitting the midsummer. So this is sort of, well, this is exactly what I'm being shown is happening. There's different parts of the garden, so to speak, that are awakening and blossoming and blooming at different stages for these masculines. And so they are preparing for the main crops, so to speak. And this feels to me like that move from 3D to 5D thinking and perspectives. Would they call it that? Who knows? But the whole point is that their higher chakras, their connection to their higher power is what is awakening within their heart as those energies thaw and unpreserve themselves. Okay. I'm gonna get a tarot with this too. So the Seven of Swords is speaking to me about one of the important parts of the process that the masculines in this part of the collective are going through is looking at where they have been self betraying, where they have betrayed others, and where others have betrayed them, and working through honoring, processing any of those stories and those hurts and the pain and the suffering, and allowing themselves to take self responsibility and also move out of the victim mode But there's an important piece and part of allowing ourselves to learn to move out of victimization. And it's where we take responsibility for how we're showing up in the world. How are we moving? How are we acting in integrity? And realizing that where the world was mirroring betrayal to us, it was because we were also potentially betraying externally. But most importantly, it's where we were betraying ourselves internally. Okay. And so as we're moving into those realizations of simply aligning with our own self truth, once we're willing to take responsibility for our own truth and release any blame or shame or guilt around ways that we behaved or choices that we made, and understand we did the best that we could, and you can't know what you don't know till you know it, but also taking sort of the energy by the reins and taking responsibility to say, okay, but now I do know better. I do know that I don't like when people treat me that way. And so I don't want to treat them that way. What are the things that I want in my life? And how can I cultivate that by becoming that person for myself and then for those around me that I love? And I know many of the masculines are doing this in certain pockets, but this is actually encouraging them. This stillness is sort of thawing them into the space of seeing where they previously had blind spots, where they were just moving out of what they knew how to do and sort of reacting to the reactions they were receiving and not actually taking the time to learn the deeper lessons. And part of that was just they didn't have the time or the space. It was sort of a go, go, go survival mode. But now this is what is shifting. This is what is changing. And I can feel as I feel into it, this is going to be a very big learning process that is like a bridge for the masculines, that as they allow themselves to go through this is going to be tremendously supportive for achieving the things that they've actually always wanted in the first place. Within this process is the diamonds, my loves. In this process is the diamonds. Okay, now what do we have for the masculines that maybe I need to get another deck, have been really sort of avoiding this process? And what's coming through to me is for those that seem the most frozen, those that seem the most disconnected, are actually some that have the biggest journey. And with that, I mean, they've contracted to hold a very deep space in the shadows. And so many of them have chosen to take on very intense and often difficult circumstances that put them in a position where they're transmuting at a very deep, deep level. And it's happening. Even as I'm saying this, I can sense it deep in the background. Like the seed is starting to awaken internally, but it's not anything anyone would see from the outside of the seed. Even if they were to take a camera and go down into the dirt and look at the seed from the outside, it wouldn't look like it was doing anything. But inside, it's thawing, it's awakening. And these masculines in particular are starting to be freed from that old intense role of that preservation and that sort of protective mode within the shadows. Okay, let's go into this because I feel what do we okay, no, I'm supposed to get a shaman dream with this and a traditional tarot. This is a very specific pocket. And regardless of where you are on this spectrum, even if you're at the forefront, you may find a piece of this within your system. And that's why you're here watching. Okay. Okay. This makes sense with the cards I just picked, why I was guided to say that. So, this is some of the masculines who do have those bigger community planetary plans within their soul blueprints. Okay. And what's happening, what I'm being shown right now, is they are being thawed at very specific times as the collective is preparing to move into these times. So there was almost like this essence of like these parts couldn't awaken until the more of the collective was actually ready to receive their codes. And so as they thaw and come online and these parts of them awaken, it will be in the divine and perfect timing. And many of them, again, are the codes to the bigger planetary collective processes, how to build the new earth, actual physical structures. Okay. This is coming right now, whether it's the shifts in the government, shifts in the schools, the medical system, all of the systems, right? All of those old systems that aren't actually supporting our ascension. Many of the masculines hold specific codes to support the new seeding of the new templates along, yes, of course, with the sisters, with the sacred feminines, but these masculines are being activated at divine and perfect timing. Love soul is in control, just like I said in those Patreon groups. So what's happening is that many of these masculines have been working away and they're feeling still significantly frustrated. The level of work that they've been putting in, they're not experiencing the results that are equal to the work that they have been putting in. And it is because so much of this essence and the next step is part of what they're meant to work through so that they can have access to their own true codes and capacity. Okay. And wow. Okay. But this discomfort and this inability to fully, like, sort of move forward quickly and swiftly and strongly in the way that they know that they're meant to. They know that they have this capacity. They know, and that's where so much of the frustration is coming from because they know, they know that they are meant for way more, that their abilities and capacity is humongous and significant, but doing it within the bandwidth of what they were taught is just not cutting it. That frustration is what is going to allow this depths of these internal codes to be retrieved, opened, and activated. Wow, gorgeous. I see why they wanted this deep dive into the masculine collective because there's some very important processes occurring internally for the masculines. Yes, if you're a feminine here, you may be experiencing these within yourself to a degree, but this feels very, very significant for those who actually identify as sacred, divine, masculine overall. Okay. Yes, working on the internal energies, we all have those, we know this, but those that are really in those overall masculine roles. Okay, my loves. I want to actually close out with a priestess of light card for all of the masculines. For all of the masculines, just an energy and message of support through this process. Idyllic times, the Garden of Paradise. This is the sacred divine feminine collective honoring and thanking the sacred masculines for holding their part, for doing what is required and necessary from them to allow all of these processes to unfold in divine and perfect timing. The sacred feminines are also honoring and aware that it is the sacred feminine and masculine together that build the new earth. Yes, the feminines have been focused on her part to allow space and grace for the masculines to step into his. This is more about the interdependent energies, not in the energies of, I'm going to do it all myself and screw you, right? This is actually about that alignment into working side by side internally, of course, as we're learning, but most importantly, as we move forward as the sacred divine masculine collective and sacred feminine collectives coming in together into these sacred partnerships and communities of unity and working together side by side. And some of you, if your sacred union partner is not available or ready, you or you're not ready and you're learning, you may experience connection, friendship, and partnerships with others who are also working within these essences as you support one another in learning how to work within these interdependent sacred partnership energies. Okay. So, wherever you are on this journey, allow yourself to open and practice with those that you feel guided to, that you feel safe and comfortable with, my loves, because any ways that we can actually start to expand and embody the sacred union, unity, consciousness, oneness codes into our life, into all of our relationships, friendships, connections, and communities, we are supporting the overall collective energies. And again, the feminines are acknowledging and excited to extend a hand and a heart to meet the masculine collective in the middle as we are ready to do so. All right, my loves, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you soon. Much love. Bye.